Hello. For my interview and oral presentation project, I'm going to be going over employee retention, speaking on my organization's challenges and strategies, or some lack thereof in some cases. But to give a little background on me, I work in crisis management at a global security operations center for Amazon. So I interviewed my skip level manager for this presentation, and I'll be diving right in. These are the questions that I went and asked my skip level manager. The stuff that I was trying to find out from him, I asked him a mixture of these questions, both from the public safety administration side, since he was former law enforcement. He retired from there, and then from kind of our company perspective to try to get an understanding of retention as a whole and how it works. And then some of the questions I start to ask more tailoring to our company to get an understanding of what he does, or not just what he does, but what our organization does to try to retain and keep our talented associates. I was asking questions trying to figure out the challenges, turnover rate, what strategies our company is using, current company, or how our culture in the company helps to keep people stay and want to be working with us. Going into the work-life balance of it, seeing is there issues with people taking the work home with them when they're not on the clock? Is it that they just feel overwhelmed, that they're stressed? What are the trends? What are we doing to try to keep our associates? Kind of how is our business trying to not have so much turnover to where they have to then spend the extra money hiring new people, putting them through a training course, having them come on the floor, and then waiting until they're able to produce or not just produce, but be productive at the same level as somebody who's been there for 3 or 4 years, somebody who's been there for some time, knows what they're doing, can handle high severity incidents, who can stay and work up to speed, not being constantly going through and training new people. So these are just some of the focusing areas that I wanted to figure out. And then I did want to find out his law enforcement, since trying to tailor it a little bit more to our class being a public safety administration based human capital management class. So I wanted to see what keeps police officers in there at the department or within the career field. Kind of what issues do they have going through with their department and with their retention strategies. So going into the manager that I spoke to has a background in both law enforcement, being a retired police officer, and being my skip level manager within my organization here at Amazon. I kind of asked him a little bit of both the law enforcement answers to this question, or to these questions, to kind of keep it relevant to the public safety administration side, or at least the public safety side of this class, whereas I wanted to get some of his insight into the leadership aspect of our organization within the Global Security Operations Center. Going into that, the first two, I would say, answers on the screen, moving to different departments, and pensions, that relates to law enforcement. What he was explaining to me on that was officers would go to the police academy for, say, the Phoenix PD. They'd get into their shift. Due to how there is more of a police departments have better retention due to the pension of being a government worker. They wouldn't get to be in a position to move shifts as much. So they would move from, say, being on a night shift, they'd move over to a different department that has a little bit of higher paying compensation. So they would move to like state troopers or DPS to make more money, still be a sworn-in officer, working for the government, getting a pension, and they wouldn't have to go through the academy again. So he explained that usually that's what ends up happening. They were having issues hiring more officers, as there's been a decrease in interest. So they're trying to find people nationwide, but there was issues with that, and there wasn't as much of a pool. He was telling me that when he went to class, there was about 200 people in that class versus when he heard his, I think it was one of his family members talking about trying to hire people for the police academy, there was 10 people. So there's been a significant reduction in those who want to join being a sworn-in officer. However, for our company, and kind of the issues and challenges that we face with retention, a lot of that came down to compensation. A lot of the answers to the questions on the previous page, that was about like, what are our strategies? What could we do to fix this? How would we be able to retain more people? A lot of it came down to we would just need to pay people more to do the job. I could say from 3 years experience working at that company, working with my company, that has been a recent sentiment. At least for the past year and a half, there's been a lot of talk about wanting better wages. He was saying that people could start at Amazon and then would leave to go, say, to Target for their Global Security Operations Center because they get paid more, but they're essentially doing the same job. Some of the strategies he was talking about, however, to retain our employees would be to make a healthier work culture, which would start at the senior level. It would have to be action, not just talk. They would have to be trying to get employee engagement. They would have to let the employees almost lead the engagement in that, or not engagement in that way, but lead where we want the culture to go, so that it's by us in a way and for us. However, one of the nice things is with our work, and a portion that he mentioned in work-life balance, is that there's a lot of people that don't take this work home. It's not something that you need to feel like I have to keep working on this when I'm off the clock. It's when you're there, you're working on it. When you're not there, you're not working on it. It's not in the forefront of your mind. So being able to have that work-life balance with this job is nice, and has probably been part of the reason of retaining people. However, another thing is with their leadership, whenever you have good leaders, if they're engaging with their employees, if they're making sure that their employees are doing okay, if they're being personal with them, that can also help to retain our workforce and make sure that we're in a good position and good standing. To reflect on the interview and kind of what I learned from it, there was a lot of stuff I learned from the law enforcement side, at least, where people would use going into the academy at, say, the local city level. Then once they were sworn in, wait a little bit, move over to a different department, say DPS or State Patrol, to get a higher paying job, not having to go through the academy again because they're already a sworn in officer, but they would still keep their pension, which is what they wanted to keep the most and what I think that was most important to them. I wasn't too surprised about what we talked about when it came to work. It has been very outspoken that a lot of associates, or a lot of not associates, but employees, are upset with their compensation, with their hourly pay. That was not too much of a surprise. I also know that there was a lot of issues when they did do some changes in the organization, which caused a lot of people to leave, which was damaging to, I'd say, some of the reputation of senior leadership. But ultimately, these things have to happen. So what they can do from here is they can try to shift, focus on the skills that the employees that they have, and then work up from there.